In the heart of a small town in Pennsylvania, there lies a house that the locals avoid, even in the light of day. The McPherson house, as it was known, had been abandoned for decades, its windows broken, and its paint peeling off in long, curling strips. But it wasn't always that way. The story begins in the early 1950s when the McPherson family moved into the house. It was a large, two-story structure, perfect for their growing family. But soon after settling in, strange things began to happen. It started with small things: doors that wouldn't stay shut, cold spots in certain rooms, and the feeling of being watched. Mrs. McPherson would often hear faint whispers late at night, but when she checked on her children, they were sound asleep. Her husband, a pragmatic man, dismissed it as the house settling or the wind playing tricks. One evening, as Mrs. McPherson was preparing dinner, she noticed something odd. The family cat, usually a calm and friendly creature, was hissing at something invisible in the corner of the kitchen. Its fur stood on end, and it backed away, growling. Mrs. McPherson tried to calm the cat, but it bolted out of the room, disappearing into the depths of the house. That night, the whispers grew louder. The children complained of nightmares, visions of shadowy figures standing at the foot of their beds, watching them. One by one, the McPherson children fell ill. Doctors were baffled. There were no physical symptoms to explain their sudden frailty. The once lively children became pale and lethargic, confined to their beds as if something was draining the life from them. Desperate for answers, Mrs. McPherson visited the local library to research the history of their home. What she discovered chilled her to the bone. In the late 1800s, the house had belonged to a reclusive doctor, Dr. Gregory Hale, who had been rumored to perform strange experiments in the basement. The townsfolk whispered that he dabbled in dark practices, trying to unlock the secrets of life and death. The most horrifying part of the story was that Dr. Hale had disappeared without a trace. His house was left empty until the McPhersons moved in. It was said that his spirit never left, and he was still searching for subjects for his unholy experiments. As the weeks passed, the situation grew dire. One by one, the children succumbed to their mysterious illness. The last to go was the youngest, a sweet little girl named Emily. On the night she died, Mrs. McPherson was awakened by a loud crash. Rushing to Emily's room, she found the window wide open, the curtains flapping wildly in the wind. Emily was gone, her bed empty, as if she had simply vanished. The house was searched from top to bottom, but Emily was never found. The grief-stricken McPhersons fled the house the next morning, leaving everything behind. The house has remained empty ever since, a silent monument to the tragedy that unfolded within its walls. Over the years, a few brave souls have dared to enter the McPherson house, seeking thrills or answers. Most leave after a few minutes, unnerved by the oppressive atmosphere. Some report hearing the faint sound of a child's laughter or catching a glimpse of a shadowy figure out of the corner of their eye. But one thing is certain: no one ever stays for long. To this day, the house stands as a reminder of the darkness that can linger in the places we call home, and the spirits that refuse to let go of the past. And if you listen closely on a quiet night, some say you can still hear the whispers of Dr. Hale, searching for his next experiment.